This is my second time recording this, and I'm only mentioning that because the first time I spent, I want to say, over half of the video kind of just talking about what I accomplished and a lot of the positives to come out of the year. Because I think how I've been viewing this last week, really, when I've been watching all these reflection videos, is that people really do like to focus on the negatives, and I think those are worth acknowledging, of course. They're very important. All the terrible things that happened. But, I also think it is worth mentioning the positives and kind of reflecting on what you learned in the year, what you did in the year, and how you're going to move forward from that. But the thing about kind of listing off everything is I realized when I watched it back is that, it shouldn't matter at all this year or any year, to be honest. But this year specifically, I feel like, I could mention LA, living in LA, interning there, finishing Rhubarb, making a hand-drawn animation, making big videos, and doing press, and getting to participate in all these things, interviewing people that I idolize. That I just did a condensed version of what I explained. But I think the fact that if you're watching this video, that's enough, in my opinion. I've been talking with a lot of people about the fact that just this year felt like a skip, like people just skipped this year. And I have two opinions on that, and one is like, yes, the fact that you just kind of lived through it and are still here existing with enough freedom and health to watch a video, you had a decent year, you made it through it. But also it's like, it wasn't a skip. I feel like a lot was learned in this year. Not just me, but everyone. I think a big thing that I highlighted in what I accomplished was just informing myself a lot more politically, whether that be donating to Bernie Sanders' campaign back in March or donating to organizations affiliated with Black Lives Matter later on in the summer. I think I just became a much more politically active person, not ridiculously, but more than I was before. I'm paying more attention. I'm learning a lot. And I also think this applies to like personal things. I think I've never been more in tune with myself. I started going to therapy, and that is like huge. I've just been doing a lot of reflecting on who I was back in 2019 at this time. When Little Women and Uncut Gems were just thriving at the box office. And I was different in a few ways. One, I had an ego. A lot of that has to do with a lot of my experience online this year. Something that, talking to other people, was not something I faced alone. I think everyone was just in a bubble this year and spent a lot of time online. And in that process, it's like, myself included, I just became very negative with the way I communicated with people on the internet. And the way I viewed things that I disagreed with, or people that I used to not mind but grew to hate. I think I not only learned a lot about like how to act myself and how to improve on that, but also just like differentiating criticism, feedback, and just hate, because that is a difference that not a lot of people talk about, specifically in like I think the film community. What I'm trying to get at is that I threw away the whole idea of expectation by the end of this year. And that's something the guy from December 2019 would have never done. Back then, I was very focused on expectation and like what this internship in LA is going to mean for me, what it's going to get me, like what I'm going to look like after college, 3 months before I graduate college, how this video is going to perform next week. And now I'm like, dude, I don't even know what I'm doing later tonight. And that's partially because of the pandemic, something none of us could have seen coming. But it's also just something I realized in general that I would have come to terms with eventually, regardless of if there was a pandemic or not. And this isn't my way of telling you guys that that's how you should live, is just throw away the idea of expecting things or having expectations in general, because that's impossible. That's a dumb thing to say. I'm just kind of using it as an example of something I learned this year and something that I'm going to practice or look closer at moving down the line. I don't know where I'm going with this. The first recording was way cleaner than what's going on here. I guess what I want to say is like, just slow down and breathe for a second. I feel like we all need to do that, because we haven't really gotten a chance to this year, you know? And reflect on like what kind of year it's been, because obviously we can talk about the bad stuff, and it's worth acknowledging the bad stuff, but it's also worth acknowledging what you learned and how you grew. Because even if you didn't accomplish much, even if you didn't hit all these subscribers or graduate college or I don't know. All I'm saying is you didn't have to do anything. The fact that you're still here right now listening to this, it says something. I had a bad year. It wasn't a great year, but I came out of it a better person. And I'll take that, you know. I guess that's all I have to say.